Good morning. This is Friday, and I'm going to give a little short review. A few of you have texted me questions, or you've put in the comments, or emailed, or whatever, and you have a couple of questions about things that are going to be on today's pre-algebra test. So I want to go over just a couple of them, just refresh your memory of them. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Let's get a couple of these little ones out of the way. We have 64,582 and, because we have a decimal point, and 2,739 10,000ths. First, I want you to round this to the nearest, let's say we want it to the nearest thousand, okay? Now realize I said thousand, not thousandth, okay? So if I go over here and I say to the thousands, okay, I'm gonna round to this 4. So I'm gonna look over here and I'm gonna say, oh, this is a 5. 5 says I round up. So that becomes what? It's gonna become not 64,583 on and on. It's simply gonna become 65,000, okay? And all of these would become zeros, all right? Now, we're not gonna keep all those zeros because we rounded it. Now I want you to write this in scientific notation. So remember, when you write in scientific notation, the number has to be between 1 and 10. It cannot be over 10 and it cannot be under 1. So I need to move that decimal to right here so that it says 6.5 times 10. Now the question is, what's the power? Okay, my decimal point is still here. I didn't move my decimal point yet. Let's find out how many places I need to move it. 1, 2, 3, 4 places. Okay, so I'm going to put a 4. The question is it negative or is it positive? When I multiply 6.5 to a positive 4th place, I'm going to move my decimal 4 places to the right because I'm going to give myself a bigger number. So it's a positive number. So my answer was 6.5 times 10 to the 4th. On your test, make sure that you round it correctly. I didn't do exactly what's on the test, but I gave you an idea of how to do them. So make sure you round to the correct place, then you change it to scientific notation. Okay, the next thing I want to look at is this orders of operation. We have a third root, we have brackets, we have parentheses. What do we do first? You do powers and parentheses first. So I can't do anything to this 9, so I bring it down. What is the third root of 8? Well, the third root of 8 is 2, okay? Now bring down my bracket because I can't just drop those. I have to keep those. Okay, now I have the 3 squared. Okay, that's a power. I can solve that. Well, 3 squared is 9. Again, I have a parenthesis, so I bring it down. But I'm going to do what's inside the innermost parentheses first. 4 minus 3 is 1, parentheses, minus 6. Now, what's the importance of those parentheses? Because those parentheses tell me that I need to multiply here. Okay, so you can't just go randomly dropping those, and some of you have. Okay, so make sure that you keep them. Let's keep looking at this. What are we going to do next? Well, we still have to do what's inside our brackets and parentheses. So we're going to say 9 plus 2, bracket. Now, inside the bracket, I have 2 problems inside the bracket. Which one do I do first? Because if I do them in the wrong order, I will get a different answer. You have to multiply and divide before you add or subtract. So remember, we're going to say 9 times 1 is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. Now I can go back. I'm all finished with my parentheses. The parentheses are gone. I've just got this one set of brackets, and it's really just there to symbolize that I am using the process of multiplication. So I'm going to say 9, because I still can't do anything to that 9. 2 times 3 is 6. And then 9 plus 6 is 15. So go way back up here to the top. Parentheses and powers first. Once you've done all the parentheses and powers, well, you're going to multiply and divide. Do that from left to right. Then add and subtract. Do the innermost parentheses first, okay? Very quickly, I want to give you another review problem, and that's going to be our problem here. I have the a root of b plus c to the a power. I don't even know what an a root and an a power are. Well, that's what these little numbers over here are for. That is if the A represents 3, B is 27, and C is 5. What am I going to do? All I need to do is fill in. This is like a formula. You've written your formula. Now substitute the formula. So I have to the third root, I have 27 plus C, which is 5, to the A power, and the A power is then going to be the third. Okay? So what's the third root of 27? It's 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So that's 3. Then I have 5 to the third power. That means 5 times 5, which is 25. And 25 times 5 is 125. So now I simply add, and my answer is 128. Okay? Make sure that you look carefully at your problem, substitute the problem, and then solve it. Follow all of your methods that we have learned this year. Now, I want to look at this equation. This equation says 3 1/7 over 2 1/8 equals 4/7 over x. What's the first thing I need to do? I need to multiply, cross multiply to set up my equation. So I'm going to say 3 1/7 times x, or 3 1/7 x, equals 2 1/8 times 4/7. Now, I can't multiply a mixed number, so what am I going to do? Change everything to improper fractions. Okay, so 3 times 7 plus 1 is 22 over 7x, which equals 2 times 8 plus 1, which is 17 over 8, times 4 over 7. Now, if I want, I can cross cancel right now. And I can multiply and bring it down and not have so many numbers. Or I can say, well, I'm just going to have to use the reciprocal, and it's going to be another fraction, and I can multiply all 3 fractions at one time. Either way is correct, whichever way you're more comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and use my reciprocal of 7 over 22 on the left, which means I have to put 7 over 22 on the right. These guys all cancel, leaving me only x. Now, what can I cancel over here? Well, the 2 7s are going to cancel and become 1s. The 4 and the 8 will cancel. The 4 becomes a 1. The 8 becomes a 2. Now I have 17 times 1 times 1, which is 17. And 2 times 1 times 22, which is 44. So x equals 17 over 44. Okay? All we're going to do is cross multiply to set up the equation, and then simply solve it with 2 rules. Whatever I do on the left, I must do on the right. And my goal is to get x by itself. Okay, so do the opposite of whatever the equation says. We have one more problem, and it's probably the question I'm still getting the most questions about, and that is this diagram. Okay, the diagram's I'm gonna do 3 things with it here. I'm not gonna tell you which ones are on your test. We're gonna do 3 things with this particular diagram. First, we're gonna find its perimeter, then we're gonna find its area, then we're gonna find its volume. Now, in order to find perimeter, I have to think about what is perimeter. Perimeter, sorry about that, simply means the distance around an object. Not all objects are nice squares and triangles. Some of them are kind of crazy looking like this. If I ask you to do the perimeter of City Baptist, if we went outside the building and measured it, it wouldn't be a nice square building. We have all kinds of angles for different different wings and different entrances that jut out or set back. Think about right outside Mrs. Turner's room. My wall is not it's not parallel to the next wing because our building sits at an angle, and this wing goes at an angle to give us this nice courtyard in the middle. Okay, so we have to think about the actual figure that we're looking at. Here, if we're gonna say the perimeter, remember perimeter is just simply adding up the sides. Well, I have a side and a side, a side and a side that I can measure. Those are easy, straight up, okay? I have a 16 plus 15 plus 20 Now the base of the triangle is 12, so I have 12. Then I have the semicircle. That's the only thing that's not a straight up easy number, okay? So I have to think, how do you find the length of a chord? Because that's really what you're finding. How long would this, I said chord, I meant not chord, an arc. How long is this arc? What's the distance of it, okay? To do that, we see that the radius is 8, okay? To find the length of an arc, okay, for perimeter, we're gonna take pi, and we're going to take our radius, and we're going to square the radius and divide by 2. So what we're really going to say is pi is 3.14 times 8 squared, which is 64. We're going to multiply those two, then divide by 2. Okay, so let's write that out. We're going to say 3.14, which is pi, times our radius, which is 8, and we're going to square that. Well, 3.14, I'm just going to bring it down. 8 squared is simply 64. Okay? You know what, guys? I said that wrong. We're not going to square here. We're just using our diameter. Okay? We had to multiply by 2, not square by 2. Okay? So we're going to say pi times diameter divided by 2, which is going to give us 16. Okay, now when we say 16 times 34 divided by 2, we're going to get 25.12. And we're simply going to add it to all these that we have. We're going to have a 16 plus 15 plus 20 plus 12 plus 25.12. Let's look where those numbers came from. We had 16 was here. This side was 15. The length of our triangle was 20. The base of the triangle was 12. And the length of the arc is 25.12. How did I get 25.12? I said, well, first of all, it's part of a circle. So I know I have to be using pi. So pi times diameter, okay? The radius is 8, so I'm going to say 3.14 times diameter. Diameter is 2 times the radius, so that's 16. Because I'm only using a semicircle, I'm going to divide it in half. That's where the 2 came in, okay? I'm going to add these together, and I have my perimeter, okay? So let's talk now about, instead of finding the perimeter of this shape, let's talk about finding the area of this shape, okay? Area means to cover. Like if I was putting down carpet, I would be covering the floor. I want to cover the shapes. How am I going to do it? Well, I'm looking for my total area. There is no formula for this crazy looking shape, so I have to break it down. What is this shape? It's a square. So I want the area of the square plus the area of the triangle plus the area of the semicircle. Now it's time to think about our formulas. How do I find those? Well, the area of a square, there's 2 ways to write it. You can say side squared, because a square has even sides, we can just multiply the 2 sides, or we can say length times width, which is the same as a rectangle, okay? Either way will work, whichever works in your little head better, okay? So we're gonna say, in my case, I'm gonna put length times width because that's what we normally use in class. Then for triangles, we're gonna say it's a base times height divided by 2. Then we're gonna look at the area of our semicircle. For the area of our semicircle, we're gonna say pi times radius squared divided by 2. Now all we need to do is fill these in, okay? So what is the length and the width of my square? Well, it's a rectangle. I thought I would put a square up here. It's 16 plus 15, okay? 16 times 15, because it's not a square, it's a rectangle. So let me change that even up there, okay? Now our triangle, our base and our height. Our base is 12. The height is what? The height is this dotted line, which is the same as this side of my rectangle. So it is 16. divided by 2. Now, to find the area of my semicircle, I have pi, which is 3.14 always, times radius squared. Our radius is 8, so we're going to write 8 squared, which, by the way, 8 squared is 64. Okay, and then we're going to divide it by 2. Okay, so we're going to simply solve these 3 small math problems to find out our total area. Okay, so let's continue doing that. If I have 16 times 15, for some reason I think I was supposed to think that was supposed to be 16 times 16 out of my book. Okay, we're going to say 30. That's 8, 6, and 1. So we have 240 is the area of our rectangle. Then we have 12 times 16 divided by 2, which is 96. Now we're going to take 3.14 times it times 8 squared. 8 squared is 64. So we're going to say 64 times 3.14. We're going to, and then we're going to get 200.96 with that, but we have to divide it by 2, okay? So when you divide by 2, you're going to get 100.48. Now all we have to do is add these together. So if you have 100.48, we're going to add the 96. That gives us 196.48 plus the 240. We're going to get 436.48. Now this is area. Area is going to be square. This whole unit, I didn't put a unit up there, so let's say that it's in feet, okay? So we have square feet. Now, one more thing. What if I want to find the volume of this? How do you find the volume of any figure? To find volume, you simply take the total area and multiply it by the height. So if our area was 436.48, and we said that the height is, let's say, 2 feet, okay? Remember, this is feet squared, and this is just feet. Well, 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 4 is 8, plus the one we carried giving us 9. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the one I carried gives me 7. 2 times 4 is 8. My volume is going to be 872.96. What's my unit? My unit has to be feet, but it's feet squared times feet, giving us feet cubed. Okay? If any of these problems were difficult, before you take the test, re-watch this. Watch it one more time. Send me a question before you start the test. Okay, you cannot use your book. You cannot use a calculator. You can use a device. You can not use a friend. You cannot phone a friend for help. This is all about what you know. This is how I'm going to know what I need to reteach, okay? If you have any questions, call me. All right, have a great day.